So we're like, hey, like we need help. And so the police say, are you at 1301 Jasmine? And I say, yes, we are. They're like, that is your neighbor. Your house is on fire. By this time, a fire truck is there. Police are there. The neighbor is out there. And we're like, what in the world? And our cars are engulfed. And then basically where we were at in the closet, we were sitting ducks because those cars, had the gas tanks been full, they would have blown at some point.
Welcome back to the Got Her Back podcast. What's up, bitches?
Oh, starting out strong.
It's Monday. Here. I'm feeling
good,
spicy today.
Girl, it's about
I'm
to get
like
spicy over here.
I am really. This is my jam, actually. Like, I love stories like this. Like, I will geek out on them. I watch them all the time.
Just mystery stories.
But to know you personally and get like these stories directly to my cell phone sometimes, I feel so grateful and privileged.
You do?
Yeah, whenever I get that text that says, bitch.
Girl?
I got tea.
Girl.
Or I got call me back.
911.
Or like when I wake up sometimes to those and I'm like, oh my gosh, I went to bed too early. What did I miss?
I know. Sometimes I ask this all the time. Like, people are like, Megan, you should write a book.
You should totally write a book.
No, like, my life is just a little loco. I mean, sometimes I'm like, is this my real life? But a lot of it's self-fucking-induced, man. Like,
we are on spicy and on fire today. I love it. You are a red flag
for real. After this,
you are a red flag, Maggie.
I am for real a red flag.
I mean, I'm a red flag as well. But you have. I mean, I think we both have some great stories.
Yeah.
I just need to like remember to write some of them down so that we can share them. But this one was too good.
It is so good.
And I think that did we share a little bit of this story?
So we shared a bits and pieces on a previous episode.
Can we go back just in case? And then we can also put in our notes what episode that was that we talked about it.
We're just going to go a deeper dive all the way back into that.
Let me interview you. Can I interview you today?
You can, boo.
Okay. Take me back to when you met this said guy, okay? Because this is going to be a Maggie dating story, but an old dating story, not Skittles.
Nope, not Skittles.
I
probably should leave this flag up this entire episode.
No, we can put them down.
I really do, because it's a pretty much a red
Take
flag.
me back to. I know you dated this guy. Let's give him an alias name.
Yeah, let's give him an alias.
What can his name be?
We'll let you.
We won't give you his real name. What was his name?
We'll Google. Let's call him RC.
Okay.
Okay.
When did you meet? When and where did you meet RC? And how long ago was this?
Before my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is 20 plus years ago. Okay, I was probably 24, and my roommate.
Your
Brylan's
age.
Yeah. Fresh out of college. Fresh. First job.
Were you already in DFW?
Yes, I was in Dallas.
Cool.
And my best friend from college, Kelly, and her daughter lived with me at the time. I owned my first little house. I was like super proud of it, right? And
first time homeowner, had a little pool in the back. I thought I was doing big things. You're rocking it. That is like extra like young to have that. Kudos.
Yeah, I was pretty excited. Mm-hmm. And Kelly was dating a guy. And so, like two true best friends do. I'm like, just like when you started dating Gabe, I'm like,
Does he have any friends?
Yeah. Any
referrals?
Yeah, I need a referral.
You know how many times I get that question?
Oh,
Got any referrals?
Yeah. Does he have a friend? Like, anybody single?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's how we get here. And I would say, friends and referrals after this story are probably a red flag. I get a referral, and it was the roommate. Okay.
So it was
the roommate.
Her boyfriend's
roommate. And they were in college, supposedly.
Okay. The guys.
I mean, yeah. And they were college roommates.
Okay.
And he was supposed to have been 20, turned 21, during this time period that we dated.
So a little younger than you.
Yeah, a little younger. Supposedly had his 21st birthday, like had a whole party for him, little birthday cake and all the things.
He had a 21st birthday?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Had all the things, right? He worked at an electronics shop from one. It was like this old, like, I don't know. I would call it a junk store, to be honest, but it was off 635. And I'd go in there sometimes and sit with him at work or whatever.
Pawn shop?
No, I mean, it kind of looked like a pawn shop, but for electronics. Like, I don't know, but it looked like old school electronics. I don't really remember exactly, but we dated. It was, you know, I'm going to be 48. So that's 24, almost 25 years ago. Okay. So you didn't date long. I didn't date my husband, but for 3 months before he moved in.
Mm-hmm.
So in this 3-month window again, I might have a 3-month pattern here.
Where you're like, come live with me.
I got pregnant. So I got pregnant by him. And I thought, being the responsible one that I was, or thought I was responsible, clearly getting pregnant at 24 and not being married was probably not responsible, but it is what it is, right? I thought we probably should move in together, or you should come and help me with bills because, you know, like if we're going to have a baby, okay?
We're now going to be a family.
Right. And so never had in any, now 3 months is, let me tell you now, as a 24-year-old kid, I did not realize, but I know now it's not long enough to know somebody at all. Like I probably missed a lot of red flags, but I honestly, looking back, don't really remember any red flags other than he did tell me like he was from Michigan, that he was, you know, supposedly turning 21. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what made me kind of get a pit in my stomach, but one day he went to work. He had just moved his stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
All it was like some clothes, and then he hadn't like completely moved in. It was like a PlayStation, probably no furniture. And there was a bunch of trash bags that he had moved into the house, and they were in the garage. And so one day, I guess just women's intuition, decided I needed to go through the trash bags. So I go out into the garage and I start pilfering through the trash bags looking, and I find all these documents. And his name that he had told me, his full name was not the same. His date of birth, he had told me, was not the same year, same month and day, but a different year.
So he was a different age than his 21st birthday.
Right.
Was he older or younger? You might not remember.
He was older.
Oh, he was older.
He was older than what he was telling me. So
what is
like
the point?
I know what is the point. Well, it will probably the red flags. This was the red flags, right? So, but as soon as I saw this, right, like he also had a dad. It looked like it was his dad with the same name that was in prison, and then it looked like he had a son, in Michigan, that was maybe around 1 or 2 years old, and so. At that point,
you didn't know any of this.
No, didn't know anything. Didn't know about a kid. All I knew that it was from Michigan. But once I saw that the name and the date of birth were not, my alarms went off. I literally, in true Megan fashion, and I was much more of a hothead then than I am now, which is pretty scary, right?
You were?
Oh, girl. When I was younger, I was a big time hothead. So I call him and I say, hey, you've got 1 hour to come get your stuff. I'm putting it on the front yard. And so me and Kelly just start putting all this stuff in the front yard. And I lived in, let's just call it not the best neighborhood. I mean, I owned my home and I was, you know, buying it. But, you know, he didn't show up until the next day. Well, the PlayStation was out there. People started like shopping like it was a garage sale and a free-for-all.
Started going through his things?
Oh, yeah. Started going through his things. Probably wasn't the smartest thing for me to do. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm done with you. You know,
you only gave him 1 hour.
1 hour, and he took to the next day. Well, when he came over the next day, he got abusive. He tried to throw me down the stairs. I had like a split level house. So when you came in the front door, it was like downstairs, and that was like I had a pool table down there, and there was 2 bedrooms where Kelly lived, and then upstairs was a living room, the kitchen, and my master bedroom and bath. And so he tried to push me down those stairs. Well, Kelly got in between him and I. And so I
Little
hit
Kelly.
And she was dynamite.
She's strong now.
Oh, yeah. So, like, I remember I had, like, it was an older house, right? Like, probably built in the 70s or 80s. And so the banister to the stairs were the type that just were, like, wooden and on the wall. So when he tried to push me, I like hit that banister and I had like a banister mark, like a whole bruise, like a circle, right? And I'm pregnant at the time and early on, maybe 5-6 weeks, but pregnant. And so she goes and gets a butcher knife.
Had you ever had anything like that happen to you? Like
pushed?
Well, I mean, pushed or anything like that?
Yeah, I would say my boyfriend in high school. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say yes. Pushed me down one time, skinned my knee. But nothing to this, like this level. And so Kelly gets a butcher knife out of the kitchen and goes and gets in between us and was like, it's time for you to go. And he turns around and he leaves. And she also was like, had the phone and she was like, I'm on the phone with the police. So he leaves, like we don't think anything of it. I mean, we do, right? We call the police, whatever. But a few days pass and we're watching a scary movie, and earlier in the night, about 10:15, a transformer blows. And so it's just, we were kind of on edge, and so, let me take that back. I'm sorry. We go out one day to go to work and there was sugar in our gas tanks. Both of our gas tanks, our cars set outside, and we never put them in the garage. And so like we had to get like I don't know if you've ever had sugar in your gas tank.
I've heard about it.
Yeah.
But
It's, if you want to get somebody,
don't tell them.
Yeah. It can do some damage. So
Don't
you
do it.
you can't start your car because if you do,
how did you know that?
You could.
That you had it in.
He left one of our gas tanks open, and we're like thinking, well, what is that? So when we go and look at it, it was like sticky stuff all over it, and so we're like, what in the world? Well, you don't want to turn your car over because I think it messes the transmission up. Like it puts the sugar, like runs it through or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a mechanic exactly, but so they have to like drop like your gas tank, drain it, all that. It was like $1,100. That was a lot of money. Like we were like, what in the world? And so fast forward to now we're say a few days later, a week later, and it's just escalating. So we're on the couch.
Was he trying to contact you?
Yeah. He had like been blowing my cell phone up. I was just clicking him to voicemail. Back then I had a flip phone. That was a flip phone era. And so I just click them to voicemail. There was no like way to like block somebody that I knew of back then. So you just like click them to voicemail. I was like, just don't answer. And so one night we're watching a scary movie, me, her, and her daughter on the couch, and transformer blows, and we're like jumping off the couch thinking like
scared.
It's a gun, like, oh my God. Well, then we realized like, okay, a transformer blew, whatever, because the lights go out and then they come back on about an hour later. So we're like, what in the world? Well, about midnight, we hear this bang, 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 bang on the door, like so loud, like profusely. And so we're like, that's it. He's come back to get us. He's taunting us. He's trying to come to the front door. He's trying to get us.
Was Malia there?
Yes, she was there. She was with us. She's probably 4 or 5 at the time. And so we run upstairs. By this time, my dad had given me a gun, and Kelly went and got the butcher knife again, and we go through my master bedroom, through the bathroom, and there was just like a closet. That closet set. We're in there, and we still had a home phone back then. So we call the police, and we're saying, hey, we need help. We have this ex-boyfriend. He's been doing, put sugar in our gas tanks. He's taunting us. Yes, ma'am.
Did we forget about the paint?
And that's after.
Oh,
that's later. You haven't got that.
Okay.
And so, so we're like, hey, like we need help. And so the police say, are you at 1301 Jasmine? And I say, yes, we are. They're like, that is your neighbor. Your house is on fire. Get out of the house right now. And we're like, what? Like, they're like, your house is on fire. Get out of the house right now. And we're like, is it safe to go outside? They're like, yes, get out of the house. So here we come, running out. By this time, a fire truck is there. Police are there. The neighbor is out there. And we're like, what in the world? And our cars are engulfed. And then basically where we were at in the closet, we were sitting ducks because those cars, had the gas tanks been full, they would have blown at some point had they not got the fire out. And we were sitting in that closet. So basically the wall was on fire on the other side, and we just didn't know. And we're sitting in the closet. So we are out there, this fire chief, country bumpkin fire chief, you know.
I'm scared.
Girl, I mean, it gets worse. So, you know, you might as well sit back and enjoy the ride. So the fire chief, he kind of took a liking to us, and probably because I have like this country accent, right? And so he just like took an interest like in our story. And so I was like, look, like we tell him what's happened up to this point. We tell him his name. He's like, what kind of car does he drive? You know, he's been doing this all the.
Did he have a car?
He did have a car. And so they go and they find the car. They come back to the house and they're like, we found the car. We're going to stake it out. And it was this like 2:00 in the morning. Well, he shows back up at his car with no shirt and no shoes on. And so what he had done is he had taken a Molotov cocktail and thrown it on my truck. I had a Chevy Tahoe at the time. And that in turn set Kelly's car on fire, which in turn set the house on fire with us inside. And so they arrest him on the spot, right? Take him to jail. And what he had done was because when he threw it, he'd got gasoline on himself. So he tried to ditch his shirt and his shoes, and he ditched them, and they found him, luckily. They were able to do a scent with some kind of dog, I don't know, an arson dog or something, and they found it at the gas station, and he had thrown them away. And what do you call that? What do you call it? Where you throw the trash out, like a big, huge, the container.
Dumpster?
There you go. That. Thank you.
Oh my,
yeah, like
mom brain.
I know. I was like, oh my goodness. So he threw it in the dumpster, right? So they find it. So they put him in jail and charge him with arson. Okay. So a week goes by. My dad calls me and he's like, Megan, we need to have a conversation. And I'm like, okay. And I had told my dad at this point that I'm pregnant, and so he's like, you can't be tied to somebody that's set your house on fire. I don't think this is smart. You'll be tied to them for the rest of your life. I was scared to death. Can you imagine someone, like it's Dateline stuff, someone set your house on fire with you inside and
try to kill you.
Right. And then now you're going to be tied to them with a baby for the rest of your life. And I was like, no, you're right, Dad. And so, judge me right or wrong. I went and I terminated the pregnancy. And so my dad took me. I can remember coming out of that clinic and my little flip phone, you turn your phone off, like when I opted for the surgery or whatever. I was like 6 weeks maybe or something. And so I come out and I'm on my way back and I turn my flip phone back on. And back then, sometimes like if you turn your phone, have it on, you keep clicking people to voicemails, the voicemails will get stuck. And so I turn my phone on, there's 15 voicemails. And so I wasn't good at checking my voicemail back then. Still to this day, I'm not good. Red flag. Not good at checking my voicemail.
I don't ever check my voicemail.
I'm terrible.
It's
Send me a
really
text.
full.
Yeah. And so I start listening to the messages, and the messages are from what I'm thinking is all these different people, a sister, a lawyer. I get to about the 5th message and I realize it's not these people, it's him. He is posing on my voicemail as a sister, telling me like, oh, please don't terminate the pregnancy. Oh, you should love him. And it goes from like good cop to bad cop, all these voicemails, and it's 15 different voicemails and about 5 different people leaving a series. But in actuality, it was all him.
Did he have multiple personalities?
I don't know, girl.
He had different voices?
It was different voices.
Same number?
No, he was calling me from, well, you didn't know. You didn't have caller ID back then.
Oh, yeah.
So all you knew was like it was a voicemail. You didn't know where it was from. You just knew you had a voicemail, right? So 2 weeks pass and he bonds out of jail. Somehow, some way, he bonds out. I don't even remember what his bond was. And so first time offender. So he bonds out. They give him, they let him bail out. Takes him 2 weeks. Well, by this time, I had insurance on my car. Kelly had insurance on her car. We'd already replaced our cars, in that 2 week period, So we had already done an insurance claim. Clearly they were totaled. I had a new Tahoe. It was all black and I'm at work. I come out and at this point I don't put 2 and 2 together. I come out from work and I was working at a bar at nighttime at the time for extra money. And I come out and it was keyed all the way around. And I thought, man, someone just saw a new nice truck at this stupid bar and they've keyed my car. I don't know until about 2 days later wake up. Everyone should know by now. If you don't, go check our Are You Scared of White Stuff episode. Megan is scared of...
Say no to white stuff.
Yeah, say no to white stuff. All things white. Milk, mayonnaise, sour cream, anything edible.
It's like her.
It's a thing. I've had it my whole life. I don't like anything edible that's white. So he knew that about me. He dumped a gallon of white paint in my pool, and it turned my whole pool white. Which
he was like obsessing over you.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know what you would call it, but at that point it kicked in. I'm like, he's stalking me. Like, that was him. I couldn't prove it, but it's probably him keying my car. And that meant that he was stalking me. So he knew, like,
how much money did he cost you? I wonder. I mean, the pool, the cars, the house,
luckily the pool,
paint job,
yeah.
the gas tank.
It was
like,
it was a mess.
What a mess.
So after the paint incident, Kelly's like, she hits with a piece. She's like, you know what? Like, this is getting out of hand. I gotta go. I've got a daughter. She moved back to Oklahoma with her mom, and rightfully so, right?
And you're by yourself.
Yeah, and I'm by myself in this house that I need to get fixed because it's been burned up, and there's like crime scene tape, like in the front yard because it's a crime scene. I mean, it was a wreck. You want to talk about? My cousin came and lived with me for about a week, but you want to talk about scared?
Who?
My cousin Kelly. Mm-hmm. He did. He came and lived with me in the crime scene. Yeah, and so until I finally was like, I think I'm okay.
Love Kelly.
So. At this point, Kelly goes home, and let's just call it another week later. So we're like week 3 into this ordeal maybe. And I get a letter in the mail, and it's addressed to Kelly, and it has a return address of Arkansas. So I call her and I said, hey, who do you know in Arkansas that would send you a letter? Because she did go to college for a year in Arkansas. And she was like, nobody. She was like, open it. So I open it, and it's a letter from RC. And he has wrote her a letter talking about, basically how bad of a person I am, and I've ruined his life and all these things. And I'm like, oh my God, Kelly, it's from him. So I call the fire chief at this point.
The guy that was nice.
The guy that was nice to me. And he's like, have you touched it? I'm like, well, yeah, I touched it. I opened it. I didn't know. He said, don't touch it anymore. I'm coming over. He comes over with a whole crime scene kit, takes the letter. He said, look, if you get any more letters, do not touch it. And so, at this point, I'm like, this guy is stalking me. And so I'm getting frustrated because, I'm thinking that, at this point, the DA, the district attorney in the county that I lived in was not really, doing their job, So I decide I'm going to go talk to them. And so I go in person, and I'm telling them all these things that have happened. Now I've gotten this letter. And so they're realizing, oh my gosh, we didn't realize that all this stuff that was being reported was all happening to one person. And I said, well, would it have mattered if it was 5 people? I was so upset, how unjust I felt the court system. It was kind of my first time to deal with the court system, and I felt like he just set my house on fire. And you're going to let him plead out because he's a first time offender. You're going to let him take a plea deal. They were already going to let him take a plea deal. And so another week passes, and by this time the chief has now said, okay, your house is going to be underneath 24-hour surveillance. I'm going to set an undercover over at one of your neighbor's houses. We're going to tell your neighbor, and we're going to set, well, I think because he was watching me so closely, he knew that he had to have known that I was being watched, because I think at that point he must have fled. He sent one more letter, and that letter, when I say deranged, Carrie, I called the fire chief, and I'm like, look, he sent another.
Have it?
No, they took it for evidence. Oh yeah, they took it for evidence, but he opened it in front of me. And so when he opened it, the words were here's your piece of notebook paper. They were written in an angle. They weren't even straight on the paper. And it basically, from what I can remember, basically told me how he was going to kill me. It had on the back, a picture of he had drawn or sketched my house and the fence. And it had tombstones for me, Kelly, my dog, her daughter, and the baby. And it had him across, and he's like, here's where I'm going to come over your fence. And this is how I'm going to come in your back door. And this is how I'm going to kill you. And it basically described in this letter how he was going to kill me. And so that's where people, just so you know, even if you're angry, don't do a death threat letter in the mail. That's a federal offense. It's a felony. So at that point, they charge
it's
him.
in the mail.
That's right. It's a federal offense. You cannot do a death threat in writing through the U.S. Postal Mail. That's a federal offense.
Don't write it down.
No, don't write it down, and don't send it through the mail. Keep your stamp money. And so, yes, so that became.
Just yell it out loud.
Like
a normal person.
Yeah, red
Just kidding.
flag. So now they have said, okay, like we're going to charge them with, 5 more felonies. They stacked them, stalking, death threat through the U.S. Postal Mail. There was a whole line of them, right? By the time he ended up, not done with me and messing with me, he was charged with like 7 felonies. So they can't find him, right? He skips his bail. And so he's on the run. Mm-hmm. Probably a month or 2 passes. So we're talking like over another 3-month period. I get a call from my good old fire chief, and he says, I've got him, Megan. He got pulled over in Michigan on a routine traffic stop, and I'm going to go fly and get him, and I'm going to extradite him back. And so I'm like, I'm feeling some sense of relief. You don't realize like
what a toll it takes on you.
Yeah, like if you haven't ever been stalked, it's the scariest thing. It's like so triggering. I can remember like driving in my car, like everywhere I went, I was constantly looking in my rear view mirror, like to see if I saw his car or see if I saw whatever. And, like I constantly was looking over my shoulder, and I wouldn't, for years after that, I had PTSD so bad, from because I always just kind of thought like, he's crazy. He's psychotic. Like he's going to come back and get me. Cause he ends up getting, when they bring him back, they did let him plea on the arson, which was a 20-year sentence. And then they gave him, they convicted him on the federal crime of, and so he ended up doing.
Were there fingerprints on the letter?
There was. He was not smart enough. He did not use gloves. So they took his fingerprints off the letters, and that's how they got him.
Yeah.
And so he ends up getting 7 years. And because it was federal time, he served it day for day. But after, I think, 3 years, he could come up for parole. So I had what, is called a VPN number. So if you've ever been a victim of a crime, it's called a victim. It's basically a victim protection number. And so it's called the Vine system, and it's actually the FBI is involved with it. And so every year that he came up for parole, I would get a letter in the mail, and I could write the parole board on whether or not I thought that he should, be paroled. And
so they have to let you know.
They do. They notify you if upon death, they notify you if they get transferred, they notify you if they're up for parole, and they notify you if they get out on parole. And so, he came up for parole the first time, and I was scared to death, and I was like thinking, oh my goodness, like this is crazy, like he can't get out, so I fought it every year except the last year. It was the summer before, his 7th year. And I knew at the 7th year mark, unless he committed another crime inside, he was going to get out. And so at that point, I just kind of had to give it up to God, right? Because my anxiety was through the roof, and I'm like, he's going to get out. But at that point,
there's nothing you can do.
There's nothing. And, I sold the house, fast forward, I'm with my ex, and we've now had a baby.
Married.
We had, married, not married yet, I don't think, but I walked into looking back. I started thinking about this the other day, looking back, I probably walked into my marriage because I literally dated RC and then one guy for 9 months after him. And I think I had such PTSD, like when it came to dating, that I got into a relationship with my ex because I initially, of course I liked him and loved being around him at the beginning. But I also knew him. I knew him from college. Right. And so it was familiar, and it wasn't like, I knew
just
he
wasn't
somebody
you didn't
right.
Know
I knew
about.
him, and I knew that was his real name. And, I didn't know everything about him, but, I at least knew him. And so I think that's probably what got me into that relationship initially, because it just felt like, okay, I don't want to go date another person I don't know. Like, that's too scary for me. Clearly my picker is broke, like at this time, like this is not good. And so, year 7 goes by, I get the letter, and, it's devastating. They're going to parole him out, and they're going to parole him out to the county that I live in. And so I write back and I say, could you at least parole him to one county over, like not in the county that I live in, please. Like, not that he can't drive over and get me, but for years I just when he got out, I had these systems in place, and in my head it would be like a check and balance, and I never even shared with anybody. I just had him with myself, and because I always thought like he's going to come back and get me. And so I would go into my garage anytime that I left. I would not raise my garage up unless I was in the car and I was already locked in my car and had the car started, which is not safe. You should not be starting a car in a closed garage, but it was just my way of trying to keep myself, I don't know, in my head. I thought like he's going to come get me and be standing outside my garage one day. And so I just always, had this check and balance system when it came to my garage and how I got in my car. And I did that for years. Fast forward over the years, I would look for him. Facebook came along, and I would look on Facebook randomly and see if he had a Facebook account. Every now and again I would Google him, but then it just went away.
Yeah, I think as time goes on,
right. And fast forward to I get a divorce, right? And you don't really realize like what is a trigger for you until like something happens again, right?